Hello, welcome to Safe for Work PMQs on Labour Social. So we've got Lindsay Hoyle here. There was a football match, apparently. Okay, let's get on with it.
Prime Minister David Johnson.
Okay. So this is the battle of the deputies today. It's going to be Angela Rayner versus Oliver Dowden.
Mr. Speaker, I have been asked to reply. My right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, is in Washington at the invitation of President Biden. They will be discussing cooperation on a range of issues, including AI and global trade, and of course, continuing our leadership in galvanising international support for the people of Ukraine. Mr. Speaker, this week
if it wasn't for your lot,
I know that colleagues across the House will wish to join me in paying tribute to the huge contribution unpaid carers make to our society.
That's what gave him.
Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Don't forget, these guys were in charge when Ukraine was invaded in 2014.
At the election, the Labour Party committed to abolishing SATs, academy schools and Ofsted, 3 policies given to them by an education union that also opposed this government's use of phonics. And yet, thanks to this government's use and focus on phonics, English primary school children have just been ranked the best readers in Europe.
Best readers of English in Europe.
So does my right honourable friend agree with me? This is another example of why, on this side of the House, we have policy to meet the needs of children rather than meet the demands of trade unions.
What a weird question.
It won't
talking about phonics, he's trying to have a dig at trade unions.
Hear that I absolutely agree with him. Driving up literacy rates is central to our plan to grow the economy. So I'm delighted at those latest figures.
Your plan to grow the economy included taking us out the EU, mate. I wouldn't trust your plan for growing anything.
Mr. Speaker? Because since 2010, we've raised the number of schools rated good or outstanding by nearly 30%. And the verdict is clear. Only the Conservatives can be trusted with our children's future.
He used the word conservative and trusted in the same sentence. Hilarious. Right, come on, Angela. Knock 'em dead.
Speaking of the last election, the Tory manifesto promised to end the abuse of the judicial review. How's it going?
Well, I welcome the much shorter question from the Right Honourable Lady today. Let me just remind the Right Honourable Lady of a few facts about the COVID inquiry. We set up the COVID inquiry. We have provided it with more than 55,000 documents so far.
In 1981, nobody died. In 1982, nobody died. In 1983, nobody died.
But, Mr. Speaker, in Wales, they also had a pandemic. And what have the Labour-run Wales authorities done there?
Okay. What?
No independent inquiry in Wales. As ever, one rule for Labour and another for everyone else.
It's got nothing to do with your inquiry, mate, that you're withholding evidence on.
Mr. Speaker, he acts like it pretends that it's complicated, but it's simple. They set up the inquiry to get to the truth, then blocked that inquiry from getting the information that it asked for, and now they're taking it to court.
Taking their own inquiry to court.
I know he considers himself a man of the people, so using his vast knowledge of working class Britain, does he think working people will thank him for spending hundreds of thousands of pounds of their money on loophole lawyers just so that the government can obstruct the COVID inquiry?
Prime Minister.
Well, we will provide the inquiry with each and every document related to COVID, including all internal discussions in any form as requested, while crucially protecting what is wholly
while taking the inquiry to a judicial review.
Because essentially,
you want to decide what's relevant.
Is calling for years' worth of documents and messages.
WhatsApp messages
between named individuals to be in scope, and that, Mr. Speaker, could cover anything from civil servants' medical conditions to intimate details about their families.
What do you think is on rape victims' phones, mate? What do you think is on the phones of rape victims that the police take off the victim and then go through?
2 pairs of noise-cancelling headphones on expenses.
What?
No, I will be fair.
Are you talking about expenses now? Are you talking about expenses? This party that has got members like the Foreign Secretary going around in a private plane at the taxpayer's expense. He's talking about expenses.
The Deputy Prime Minister was very good saying he was welcoming short questions. I'd also welcome shorter answers.
Mr. Speaker, all we're asking for is what the COVID inquiry has asked for. And across the world, COVID inquiries are well underway. While his government hides information and shells out public money on legal bills for the Oxbridge one, the former Prime Minister is now demanding another $1 million to pay for his new lawyers. Now, I know the honourable gentleman and his former boss has fallen out, and maybe he wants to patch things up. But can he seriously say this is a good use of taxpayers' money?
Deputy Prime Minister.
But you spent £5.99 on headphones. What about the £5.99, eh?
We need to search her WhatsApp messages.
His party spent $37 billion on a test and trace system that didn't work.
And I will happily stand up for our record on COVID. Because when she and her party were carping from the sidelines, calling for longer lockdowns, I was
calling for a lockdown. You were trying to stop the lockdowns.
Football clubs running.
220,000 people have died in this country under your watch. Under your watch, 220,000 people.
That's the difference between her and me, Mr.
Our economy still hasn't recovered from
pre-COVID
levels. Or pre-Brexit levels.
Mr. Speaker, I know for the last couple of years we've been trying to prep Prime Ministers for this, but these punchlines are dire. He really needs to go back to school himself. And speaking of school, thousands of children are missing from school. Absence has nearly doubled since before the pandemic. The Prime Minister says he's maxed out on his support for school pupils. But why did the government abandon its plans for a register of missing children?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Come on, answer that.
Well, on the specifics of the Right Honourable Lady's question, that is not the case, and we continue to keep the policy under review. And what I would say
under review. Oh, it's under review.
I am very proud of this government's record on funding and support for schools. £4 billion more this year. £4 billion next year. And the result of all of that investment is we have the highest standards of reading in the entire Western world.
40 billion gone on the quasi-quartang mini-budget.
Were in power.
Over 100 billion
So
on
there
HSE.
we have it, Mr. Speaker. Thousands of children missing, under review still. So let me ask him about another something else that's gone missing. The Public Accounts Committee this week revealed that the government's fraud increased fourfold, with ministers overseeing the loss of £21 billion of taxpayers' money in the last 2 years.
21
Can
billion.
he tell us how much of our money they expect to recover?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Answer that.
Mr. Speaker, we are working tirelessly to recover
Oh,
those
yeah,
funds.
tirelessly. Oh, yeah.
And we have made huge progress already.
Tirelessly.
But again, if the party opposite wants to talk about good use of taxpayers' money, what do we have from the party opposite? Plans for an unfunded £28 billion.
Never mind what we've done. Look at what you're planning to do.
Drive up borrowing, push up.
Never mind the crimes we committed. Look at what you want to do.
Everyone's mortgage.
Look at the other people doing things, maybe perhaps in the future.
She must realise that Britain cannot afford Labour.
Mr. Speaker, Britain can't afford any more of the Conservatives.
Yeah, absolutely.
He seems to have lost count. The answer is a quarter. only a quarter of the billions of pounds of taxpayers' money lost to fraud is expected to be clawed back. If this government can't get the public money back, they can't be trusted with anything else. It's become a pattern of behaviour from the Conservatives. An inquiry missing the evidence, schools missing their pupils, taxpayers missing their money, and ministers missing in action. And all the while, working people pay the price for their mistakes. This week, the Public Accounts Committee also warned that this epic fraud and waste could happen all over again due to the ministers living in denial of the facts. If his government can't admit the truth, then how on earth can they learn the lessons?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, I would say to the right honourable lady, we're actually putting more resources in throughout this year to tackle fraud and error. We continue to make
more resources.
Real progress
Vague, like that.
But again,
Gives me
it's quite
progress. Vague.
Go on.
Extraordinary. Go on. Why is it extraordinary? You're being in charge for 13 years. 13 years, mate. 13 years. Drive down. You're working to. Vague again. Not actually doing it. Come on.
£10,000 from Just Stop Oil backers.
£10,000. You're talking about £10,000. She's talking about billions. She's talking about £20 billion, and you're talking about 10 grand. That is just pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. 10 grand.
Foreign oil and gas.
No,
Do you know what?
no, they don't want any oil and gas. And if we had onshore wind farms that your party banned, we might not need so much oil and gas.
What did they say? It's naive, lacks intellectual rigour, and could decimate communities, just like Labour.
This is why people in the GMB and Unite should be careful about what they say, because they'll be piloted by Labour, the Tory deputy leader.
The link to Aylesbury is still just a dotted line on the map. Now, I've raised the need for this vital link on several occasions.
All Tories look like either gammon or undertakers, the men anyway.
And it will reduce air pollution. Each time I've been asked to work with stakeholders to reduce the cost, I'm really pleased to say we've managed to do that. There is now a much cheaper proposal on the table. So can my right honourable friend now please change that dotted line into a solid line and give my constituents the railway they do want?
We want to put back the railways that the Tories took away in the 1960s. That's going to cost the taxpayers a lot of money, isn't it?
Campaigner for this project, and I can assure
your
him
party was a tireless campaigner for getting rid of a third of British railways.
East West Rail Company to consider the feasibility of lower-cost railway links on the Aylesbury spur. And
how about the low-cost railway links all over the country? How about that instead of HS2?
We now come to the Deputy Leader of the SNP, Murray Black.
Oh yeah, good. I like Murray Black.
Mr. Speaker. When the Prime Minister took office, he said he would put economic stability and confidence at the heart of this government. Today, UK interest rates are one of the highest in the G20, and mortgage rates are rising nearly back to where they were after the former PM crashed the economy. Is it not the case that this government's biggest achievement is that they're trashing the economy just a wee bit slower than their predecessor?
Yes, very good. Very good.
I don't know whether the Honourable Lady has been following the news today, but actually, again, the OECD upgraded our growth forecasts.
There's a forecast, was there, saying it was going to be awful, and it wasn't quite as awful. Brilliant. Well done, mate.
The whole nation came together celebrating that wonderful moment of pomp, pageantry, and
what's this got to do with anything?
What did the Honourable Lady describe
about
it as?
now?
I quote.
Let's just talk about the economy.
Quote, Mr. Speaker.
Let's talk about the economy.
A pantomime. Well, the real pantomime.
Her face on Mary. She's like, what? What are you on about? What a loon!
Question the Deputy Prime Minister was asking, but let me try another one. This government plans to cut taxes for the richest, spend £6 billion imprisoning people fleeing war and persecution, and has lost £21 billion to government fraud throughout this pandemic. Is the view from the Prime Minister's luxury helicopter so skewed that during a cost of living crisis, he thinks this is what people's priorities are?
Yes. Good comeback there. Gammons, undertakers, and haunted supply teachers.
exactly
Love it, Hayes.
what is it that this government has done? We
What
have
is- what we've
provided
destroyed everything.
record increases to the personal allowance, meaning that
Record
the
increases?
person
No,
working
it's
full-time
not in
on
line
the
with
minimum
inflation.
wage has seen
It's
a
not in line with
£1,000
inflation.
reduction in their tax.
And you've made their energy bills £2,000 more.
Fylde has
Lives
many
on another
vibrant
planet.
small shops that are the beating heart of the economy. But St Anne's Town Centre has got fantastic potential, but its layout, quite frankly, is becoming tired. Investment is needed to reinvigorate the town centre, better connecting it to the seafront and reinvigorate the town. What steps are my right honourable friend taking to continue this government's Levelling Up mission to deliver for towns like St Anne's?
Nothing. Nothing.
Well, that's
Absolutely
precisely
nothing.
why we've
Levelling up.
created the Levelling Up Fund.
Prime
and the
Minister
3.6
bragged about taking
billion
money
pounds
from
within
deprived
that, and the
areas and
Towns
giving it
Fund
to the
to be
frickin'
invested in high
Cotswolds.
streets up and down the country, and we
Cotswolds,
will be
Kent,
outlining
I don't know.
the third round
Tunbridge
of
Wells.
submissions
Tunbridge
to that
Wells.
fund, and I'm quite sure my honourable friend will make a very vigorous
Gammons,
case
Undertakers
for his
and Michael
constituency for
Fabricant's
funding
wig.
during that round.
David.
Speaker, yesterday I met Karen. Karen is a carer for her husband Alan, who has Parkinson's and Lewy body dementia. Karen told me how hard it is to get people with power just to listen to her. Like so many carers, Karen feels her caring work just isn't valued. At times, she's wanted to give up, but knows she must carry on because of her husband. Mr. Speaker, remarkable carers like Karen save the government more than the entire NHS budget.
Yes.
So will the government finally recognise the value of Britain's family carers and not just pay tribute to them, but give them the financial and practical support they deserve?
100%. 100%.
Prime Minister.
Yes.
Well, of course, I would like to join.
We would like to
the
do that.
right
We don't have the
honourable
money
gentleman
because
in
we're
paying
giving it all to our
tribute
mates.
to Karen
What
and
bastards.
to hard-working, unpaid carers up and down the country. And I know the right honourable gentleman speaks from personal experience about this
150,000
as
of
well.
levelling up
We
money
have
given to a
provided
Russian
2.3
oligarch's
billion
wife's
pounds worth of
entertainment
support for social
centre.
care,
Yeah.
an additional 25
The penny push
million
machines.
committed to putting people at the heart of care in the
Committed.
Heart of Care white paper.
Delivering.
And
Committed.
£327 million is also
Oh.
committed to the Better Care Fund.
How about paying carers
Thank
properly?
you, Mr. Speaker. Many of my constituents
looking after
are
the
deeply
family
concerned
members.
about the proposals for the 440-acre Hinckley National Rail Freight Interchange and the impact that this proposed site has on the environment and, for example, on infrastructure.
Ah, shit. Like you care, mate. I just want to say, I just knocked the sound off for them for a second. I just want to say that when I applied for carers allowance to look after my dad who has advanced dementia, I was told that I couldn't have it because I hadn't lived in the UK for long enough in the previous 5 years, even though I had never taken money in any other country. It had all come through my UK bank account and I had paid taxes in the UK, but I wasn't eligible. That's the system the Tories have set up. So just be careful. You might be away from the country for whatever reason, and then you come back and you say, can I have literally, like, I think it's £72 a week to look after me dad? And they'll say no.
What a blight can be provided
You're
by
the blight,
those rail
mate.
freight projects. So I do have every sympathy for the case that he's
No, you
making.
don't, mate. You don't have any sympathy. You're a Tory. You have
Thank you, Mr.
emotions
Speaker.
like normal people.
Deputy Prime Minister, this week we heard plans for 2 universal basic income
You literally
pilots
said you're
in
right, we already
England.
pay tribute
There
to
have been
them.
similar
Yeah, yeah.
schemes planned for Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. With the progress of the gig economy and the acceleration of artificial intelligence, it's clear that the working environment will need drastically overhauled. Will this government waken up to the reality of the situation and instruct both the DWP and HMRC to engage with these pilots so we can constructively assess the pros and cons and work to safeguard a less precarious future for the next generation?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Thanks, clap that, Motor.
Mr. Speaker, the government and I have never
have personal
been
reasons for
convinced
really
about the
hating
case
this
for a
government.
universal basic income. We're not alone in that. It's also the position of Paul Johnson of the IFS. I think a much better solution is to create more jobs, which
No,
this government has
no,
done.
no,
and
that's what
cut
the Nazis
taxes
did,
on
mate.
working people,
Oh,
which
it's
is
full
what
jobs,
this
full
government has
employment.
done.
That's what
That is the
Stalin
route
did.
for
Your
prosperity
ideas are
for people up and down the
Stalinist,
country.
mate. Everyone should be working. Let's dig holes, now people to fill in the holes. Do a job, do a job. UBI is the way forward. Give it to carers, give it to people who need it, give it to mothers, give it to fathers, give it to everyone. UBI.
Government effort and resources on doing this.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, as I'm sure my honourable friend knows, Levelling Up Partnerships are committed to work hand in
Duke,
hand.
that doesn't surprise me, mate. Exactly, that's what they do. Any way they can get out of giving you the money that you have actually paid tax for all your life, that they'll use it
for funding for his constituency.
Under
Thank you
this
very much,
gang
Mr.
of
Speaker.
scum.
After 13 years, the government has repeatedly broken its promise to repair social care. Post-pandemic, I've been visiting sheltered housing schemes in Hornsey and Wood Green, and time after time, basic services, dentistry, podiatry, befriending, are all missing. Will the government take urgent action and repair this mess, or will it be down to Labour again to pick up the pieces?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, for the NHS as a whole, this government has provided record additional funding, and indeed, since we came to power in 2010, funding is up £70 billion.
Universal basic
and
income.
in addition, in respect of social care, my right honourable friend, the Chancellor, has provided a further £2.3 billion worth of support to this vital sector.
Dame Andrea Liz.
I congratulate the government for its determination to bring forward the rollout of electronic patient
Tories
records
do not care
for
if
everyone in
millions
England.
are barely
And
able to
can I
exist
ask
with
my right
poorly
honourable
paid
friend
jobs.
to confirm that this gives us
Oh,
a
God,
brilliant
loathsome.
opportunity to roll out the digital version of the Red Book that is so transformational for every family in giving their baby the best start for life?
Deputy Prime Minister.
I totally agree with my right honourable friend, and I know what a tireless campaigner she has been on this issue, both in and
Kieran,
out of government.
where are the 40 new hospitals?
I'm happy to confirm that the
Where are these
so-called
40 new hospitals,
digital Red
mate?
Book will be rolled out, and we expect it to be delivered over the course of the next 2 years.
Brilliant. We're going to have a book over the course of 2 years.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Deputy Prime Minister likes to call himself Mr. Normal. He went to a normal school and he understands normal people. We know that normal people are struggling in this Tory cost of living crisis. People like nurses, who he said had unreasonable wage demands. This is the same person who, on top of his £154,000 salary, charged two businesses over 13 grand for just 20 hours work. That's £670 per hour. Does Mr. Normal really think he's worth 65 times a Band 2 nurse?
Are you?
I'm not quite sure what the question was aiming at, but
Do you think you're worth 50 times more than a nurse? That was the question.
What I can say to the honourable gentleman is actually this government has provided over £3,000 worth of support to help people through the cost of living.
All right. And how much are the energy bills? Averaging £2,500.
Of our
Thanks to you.
economy and the strength
of your economy, it hasn't recovered since before COVID. It hasn't recovered to the pre-COVID levels under your idiotic government.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Couldn't run a bath. Never mind a country.
And we're all concerned about the 81,000
Christine,
children in the school register and under the term home educated. And no one, not local authorities or schools, can honestly answer the question how many children
there's
are
a
in
word
school.
that you've got to
Therefore,
handwrite very carefully,
every
isn't it?
child is safe and suitably educated? These children are out of sight and out of mind. The Secretary of State for Education has said that this is one of her priorities, as had the Education Select Committee. So can I ask my right honourable friend to expedite my 10-minute rule bill to place a duty on local authorities to maintain a register of children who are not in school, so that we can ensure that every child is visible, safe, suitably educated and receiving the support to enable them to thrive?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we do want to ensure that all children are safe and have access to an excellent education. And of course, Local authorities must seek to identify children missing in their
We're not going to
area
give them any support
and
on
ensure that they are safe.
Yeah.
The Department for Education continues to undertake work to support swifter identification and greater support of children missing in education.
Neil Griffin.
Well, in spite of government spin to the contrary, the backlog of undetermined initial asylum claims has risen even since December from 160,000 to 170,000 plus. Caseworker numbers are down, returns are
Highest
still
inflation
down.
in
So will the
all
Deputy
European
Prime Minister
countries.
agree to meet me to hear my constituents' concerns about the Home Secretary's plans to commandeer yet another hotel, the Stradey Park in the village of Furness, and explain what more he will do to speed up clearing the backlog so as to return people to safe countries, settle genuine refugees, and avoid the need to use the Stradey Park Hotel?
The Tory lady asked the same question.
This government will take whatever action is necessary, both to clear the backlog and to stop the boats. And actually, as she may have heard from my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, small boat arrivals to the UK are actually down 20% this year. Our French deal has prevented 33,000 illegal crossings this year. Albanian arrivals are down 90%. We've removed 1,800 Albanians. We've increased the number of illegal working raids.
Yeah, no one's talking about T-Sport.
The legacy asylum backlog is now down 20%.
I'm hoping someone will bring it up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Samina Halliwell, a 12-year-old girl in my constituency, suffered an horrific ordeal. She tragically then went on to take her own life. She was let down by the system. This week is the 2-year anniversary of her death. Labour-controlled Sefton Council have still got an inadequate rating from Ofsted for children's social care.
What about
so
your
will my
rating
right
as the
friend meet with
Conservative
me
Party?
Just for further measures can be taken to better protect children in Southport and the wider council area.
Piss off. You're using the death of a child to make a political point. Death of a child. These people have got no respect.
On both sides of this House
how grubby is this? Yeah, that's a bad thing that a child died.
Her family
and somehow
and
it's Labour's fault.
All children, of course, have the right to be
trying to make
safe
a political
and
point
protected.
here.
I understand that the Department for Education will shortly begin consulting on strengthening statutory
every
guidance
level.
to ensure health agencies,
That dickhead from
police
Southport,
forces and councils
gammon
work together
gobshites
more
out in the next election.
collaboratively and end decision that puts children's needs that prevent putting children's needs at the heart of their work. Of course, I'm very happy to meet with the honourable gentleman and for Health Department ministers to meet with him also.
Hilary Benn.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Speaker. Huntington's disease eventually robs sufferers of their ability to walk, talk, eat, care for themselves and make decisions. It changes the person they were and has a 50% chance of being inherited by their children. Will the government back the Huntington's disease community's call for better access to mental health services, a care coordinator in every area, and specific NICE guidelines so that everyone affected by this devastating condition can get the help they need?
The Prime Minister.
I completely agree with the right honourable gentleman about the devastating impact of this terrible disease. It is the case that we have increased significantly investment in mental health. I, of course, am happy to arrange for Department of Health ministers to meet with him to discuss this further.
Simon Baines.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Wales is the land of song, and there is no better example of this than John's Boys Male Chorus from Rose and Clwyd South, who have performed magnificently in the recent series of Britain's Got Talent, moving Bruno Tonioli and the other judges to tears. Would the Deputy Prime Minister join with me in congratulating the choir and also the other many community choirs in Clwyd South and across the UK who bring such pleasure?
This is Prime Minister's questions. Why are you asking about Britain's Got Talent? What the hell?
Well, I would actually argue that choral music is possibly
Could you give a big round of applause to the runners up on a TV show that hardly anyone watches? Oh yeah, good job, runners up on that show.
John Boy's Male Chorus for their fantastic achievement in reaching the semi-final of Britain's Got Talent.
Didn't win, did they?
I'm sure that they will continue to entertain and engage communities for many years to come.
Paula Barker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The government
post of anti-corruption champion has been vacant
Talent
for
shows.
over a year. Does the Deputy Prime Minister think the vacancy increases or decreases the risk of corruption in government?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Yep.
Well, in my department, the Cabinet Office,
question.
I'm working very closely with
Another
my right
question,
honourable
though,
friend,
this
the
one,
Paymaster General.
in the way of a
We are
GMP.
taking extensive steps to make sure we crack down on fraud. Procurement is transparent.
Crack down on
And
fraud.
of course, we will be filling that vacancy very shortly.
Crack down on fraud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The government do not have any money of their own. Every penny they spend is taxpayers' money, including money spent supporting the economy during the pandemic. So in that light, would my right honourable friend agree with me that it would be disgraceful for a political party to accept huge donations from a company that was simultaneously claiming hundreds of thousands of pounds of public support during furlough?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Surely that applies to the
I,
Tories.
of course, completely agree with my honourable friends. And actually, the scheme, the furlough scheme, helped protect around 14.6 million jobs during that terrible COVID crisis. But what do we discover? Labour's taking 1.5 million from Just Stop Oil backers.
Oh, Just Stop Oil backers, right.
New
Okay.
oil and gas.
Yeah.
It's
You take way more than that from the actual oil companies that are actually destroying the planet and destroying the future of the planet.
Dalton.
Speaker, in West Lancashire, my constituents are concerned about their children's education and specifically the ongoing long-term impact of COVID-19 restrictions on their children's educational development. Now, a Public Accounts Committee report out today finds that the Department for Education is failing to take fast and effective recovery action to close the attainment gap in schools. And the department has admitted that it will take a decade, 10 years, just to get the education attainment gap back to pre-pandemic levels. So, when will the government stop blaming everyone else and take responsibility for failing a generation of lost learners?
When will the government take responsibility? I'm going to answer this question for you. Never. Never. They will never take responsibility for any of the shit they've pulled.
Primary and secondary schools under this government. Since COVID struck, we've provided almost £5 billion in education recovery. And I would say to the Honourable Lady, if she's that concerned about children's education, she should be calling on the education unions to call off their damaging strikes.
All right, it's all the fault of the strikers striking for a living
Town
wage.
Council and Morby Main FC, who play at the Miners' Recreation Ground, are fighting to make sure the ground is financially sustainable and can stay open. But CISRO, who run it, has a history of selling off unprofitable areas to developers, will not allow a full bar to be open, which will provide much-needed capital, which has the support of the council residents.
What does
Spaces
this
around
got to
recreation
do
grounds
with
are important
anything?
parts of our mining heritage. So can my right honourable friend
What?
step
The
in
bar.
to help Morby Main get the bar that it needs and to
bar.
help secure the financial future of this ground to ensure it does not face the
Sorry,
same
you're talking
fate
about
as
a
the Dignity
pub
Miners'
in a
Welfare Recreation
sports ground. What the
Deputy Prime Minister.
What?
May I offer my
my
strongest
God.
support to my honourable friends?
We're a country with a GDP of over £2 trillion a year, and he's asking about a bar in a bloody sports ground.
In his constituency, but I will
Jesus
certainly examine what we
wept.
could do further.
These Tories.
Mohammed Jassin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The
Hashtag
East-West
priorities.
Rail announcement proposes a 6-track route which will impact at least 66
We need to open
properties
a
in
bar.
Bedford, including the
Quick, let's get the
demolition
government
of
assistants to
37
open a
homes.
bar.
So will the Deputy Prime Minister tell me why resident concerns have been ignored, and will he give me a commitment today that if the majority of the residents are against the plan in this statutory consultation, his government will not approve the proposal?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Of course, we will engage with local communities, but I do find it rather odd that the party opposite have been saying for the past few months about how they want to build more housing, build more infrastructure,
they'll
and
like
then
to
as
do
soon
that.
as there is a proposal to do
power.
so, which will enormously enrich that area,
Will it?
it's being opposed.
Oh, right.
Robert
Could it
Hill.
be that
Thank you,
when he
Mr.
says
Speaker.
finally there
The
is
Deputy
something that
Prime
will build
Minister
more
will note
homes?
that the calling of an early election in Spain has caused some concern about delay to achieving a treaty between the United Kingdom and the European Union in relation to Gibraltar. Will he confirm that it remains the policy of Her Majesty's government to prioritise achieving such a treaty once the outcome of the election is known,
shit about
and
Gibraltar.
that the government will do all that is necessary
Don't give a toss about
to secure that
Gibraltar.
treaty
Don't
for
even
the benefit
pretend
of
that you do.
Gibraltar and its Spanish neighbours, and
96%, was it? 97% for
Gibraltar
Remain?
and its British people for their future security and prosperity.
Don't give a crap about Gibraltar, mate. Don't pretend that you do
I
now.
can assure my honourable friend that the United Kingdom and His Majesty's government remain steadfast in its support for Gibraltar, and I can assure my honourable friend that we are working side by side with the government of Gibraltar, and we remain committed to
He's been
concluding
charged for
that
13 years, and the last question, he was like, yeah, when we finally do something about housing, they've been in charge for 13 years. 13 years.
To have the higher rate of inflation than almost all of the other G20 countries.
Yeah.
It's families in Putney and up and
economy's
down the
doing worse than
country
Russia.
who will be suffering because of this. Will the Deputy Prime Minister finally commit to introducing a proper windfall tax on the enormous profits of the oil and gas giants and take pressure off struggling households?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, we
Shants will be a fine
a
thing.
bigger windfall tax than the Labour Party were proposing.
right,
Thanks to that 75% windfall tax. Last winter, we paid half of people's energy bills, and she talks about the OECD. What she failed to mention was that the OECD today gave the highest upgrade of growth to the United Kingdom compared to
Because
any
it's
other
so low! It's gone up from 0.05 to 0.06. My God. Just what? They're just the worst people ever in all the world, the Tories. And they get away with it. But, you know, they're not going to get away with it much longer. We're going to get a general election in the next 18 months. Hopefully it won't be in the middle of bloody winter again. But we are going to get a general election. And I just hope that we don't just put these guys out on their ear. We actually make sure that the Tory party never rise as a political entity ever again. We need to actually destroy this party because it is just a party of liars, cheats, frauds, spivs, these people who are basically stealing money from us British taxpayers and the poor British people who live here because they can get away with it. And they've been getting away with it literally for decades now. And there's got to be a moment where we all come together and we say, stop. This has got to stop, and it stops now. So, yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks for all of your wonderful comments here coming up. I won't be allowed to vote. That's annoying. Make sure that anyone that you know that is allowed to vote doesn't vote for the Conservatives. Here we go. We pay half of people's energy bills, and it's still highest in the world. Saskia says, people still believe what politicians say. Not me. Never will, no matter what party. Shazek32 says, the only reason why you paid half our bills was to avoid the strife of fleecing us with the most expensive energy bills in the entire world, which they are. Jeremy K. Hunt, smug bar steward, sitting there. He is infuriatingly smug. And Phonebox, you can say, I sometimes hope for a more violent solution to the Tories. You maybe think that, but I couldn't possibly comment. I'm interested in the pub. Tell me about the pub. No, there's that guy, you know, the MP wanted a pub. He wanted a bar in his sports place centre. That was really important. That was the most pressing thing. You know, that's probably the only opportunity of his political career to stand up in Prime Minister's questions and field a question to the Prime Minister or Deputy Prime Minister. And that's the question he chose to ask. That's the one. Weird. You're going to do a group chat on Labour social Discord for this. I wasn't going to on Angry Pagan. I've got a bunch of stuff to do this afternoon, which I need to crack on with. But yeah, I'll be coming in and out of the Discord server over the next. I don't know if I'll come on to it later on today, but I'll definitely be there after the show tomorrow. Tomorrow we've got Morning Brew with Phil Morehouse, which is going to be at 9:30. And usually after Morning Brew, a few of us go over to the Discord server, the Labour social Discord server, and we have a listen along to James O'Brien, and we can chat while we're doing that. So if you do want to head over to James O'Brien's show on LBC, he's talking to Cavill Vorderman this morning. I don't know if that's already happened or it's about to happen now, but that'll be well worth checking out if you miss it. If I miss it, you can get it on catch up on LBC. Okay, so I'm going to head off now. Thank you so much for watching me. Thanks for all the super chats and the chat, and thanks to all the YouTube members and my patrons. If you go to patreon.com/Labour Social, you can become a patron too and get access to the Discord server, so you can continue the after hours discussions as we regularly do. So until next time, I'll say thanks for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.